Hey guys, it's Jen here. Welcome to part 2 of episode 8, where we cover the last 4 episodes of season 2. Thanks for sticking with us, and I hope you enjoy part 2.
Okay, what are we talking about next?
I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about next? I've lost complete control of myself and you guys.
So here's my question in terms of world building. Why was there a minefield on the East Coast?
Excellent
That's a good question. What the fuck was up with that?
Why the fuck was there a minefield? And it was like a regular road sign, warning. Bumps in the road. Not like, it was like a regular road sign. It wasn't like some it wasn't like a military keep out testing facility or anything. It was just watch out. There might be some mines.
Like in the middle of conceivably New York and New Jersey. I mean, New Jersey I could understand because that place is a fucking dumpster.
Ugh, I mean, to be fair.
Fire. But why the fuck is there a minefield there?
With regular caution. And why wouldn't you put a sign on both sides? I don't know.
And the other thing is okay, so Jaha's let me go around with my stick and try to find mines. Dude, that is the worst way to go find mines, I feel right? If you stick a stick into a mine, it's gonna explodey on you.
Well, it only explodes when you take the pressure off.
Oh, take the pressure off. So
I don't think the stick was heavy enough. Yeah.
So it's like that thing in the Raiders of the Lost Ark where
exactly
he has to switch the exact weight. Okay,
you need the monkey,
the golden head. Yeah.
So here's my explanation.
Yeah,
it's 2052.
Mm-hmm.
Overpopulation, serious threat of everybody.
So we're just thinning
dying.
The herd for people who can't read road signs.
No, there's already wars. There's climate change. There is disruption. There is mass relocation of people, and there's wars. And if did you guys read the script of the pilot
of what?
No.
Of the 100?
Dude, who has time to read?
Well, I didn't read the whole thing, but there was this
the script of our favorite show, whose pilot episode was the worst.
Well, that's the thing, that the script has some very good parts. And,
dude, where did you find the script? People want to know.
Someone posted it on Reddit.
Oh, okay. Now you went deep on that one.
and it says that the nuclear bombs, were actually just the last straw. Humanity was probably going to kill itself off anyway.
Okay, so I was just thinking about that today, Shahin. And this just might be my drunk thoughts. How many extinction events have there been on the planet Earth? 7?
I thought about 5. I thought it was 5.
We're heading towards another one, guys. I mean, we honestly are. Humanity is fucked. Anyway, positive thoughts. Let's move on. So that was the last straw, according to the script.
Yeah. I think it's said from... I think Clarke is saying it. Or is it a monologue or something?
So it was a monologue that was never actually included in the pilot.
Yeah, I think it might have been the part where she says it's been 97 years since the
intro to the premise to the whole series, or the conceit, was set up in that monologue.
Yeah,
I don't even know what your point is. What is your point? So your point is basically
there were wars, so there's minefield. There's a minefield.
But in America, dude.
Yeah, there was civil war in America. New Jersey was underwater. People were coming over to New York, and New Yorkers didn't want them, so they...
Between Yankees fans and Mets fans, I can't even right now. I can't even. So we have to move on, right. Guys. This is I really. At the beginning of this podcast, I said it was going to be the worst podcast ever, and I said, "Oh well, I'm going to underpromise and we're going to overdeliver." We're not over-delivering, guys. This is the worst podcast on the face of the earth. And I fucking love it. Thank you, Shahin and Joe, for this journey. This is great. What do you guys want to talk about next? I think we need to talk about character arcs, because I think they're super-duper important. Joe, let's talk about some of your favorite character arcs. Yeah, you got to move down. You got to move down the run sheet for that.
Which one though? Like, I mean, do we talk about Bellamy? Do we talk about Lexa and Clarke? Do we talk about Nico and Abby?
Okay, so Lexa and Clarke, real quick. Hottest scene between the two. Was it the back Lexa up into the table scene or the kiss scene?
Are you asking for my like expert lesbian opinion?
I'm asking for anyone's expert opinion, and it doesn't have to even be lesbian. Why does it have to go there with you, Joe? Why is it always lesbianism with you?
Why is it always straight and balls deep with you? Like, we are who we are, Jen.
We are who we are. So for me, the hottest scene was that Clarke backs Lexa up into the table, because again, this goes back to their whole power dynamic where Lexa is always kind of backing Clarke up, especially in the Donde decision. And this is the one time that Clarke kind of imposes her will on Lexa, and Lexa's like, you're right, I do care about people. I care about you, Clarke. Puppy eyes.
I mean, yeah.
That was hot. That was hot.
I mean, both of those scenes were like blocked really well, and you know they did a good job. And I will again go on the record that until that like backing into a table scene, and even after the backing into a table scene, at first during the backing in the table scene, I was like, okay, like they're definitely like playing with something here. Goodness, and then it wasn't
the worst gaydar.
Oh my god,
Joe, you have terrible the worst gaydar. I got this in the Pauna episode. I'm like, oh, something's happening between these two.
No, but like,
and you're like, boop-a-doop.
No, but see, so here's the thing. Like, they always like. Obviously, Lexa is going to have a thing for Clarke. Like, that part was pretty obvious. I was not expecting the, like, Clarke kissing her back thing. And I think that was, like, oh, really?
So kudos to the writers of The 100 for not saying, oh, I'm into guys after the reciprocated kiss. I mean, let's face it, Clarke was into it, too. Clarke's just like, oh,
not right now.
Not right now.
We're kind of busy right now, Lexa.
My agenda is kind of full right now. I thought that was really gutsy. I didn't expect it. I mean, I expected it from Lexa, but Clarke being bisexual was like, okay, this is interesting. It was telegraphed, not telegraphed on Clarke's side, but the whole relationship thing, like the sexual tension between these two, if you're watching the show and not Joe, was very apparent.
Actually, I'm with Joe, Jen.
Oh my god, you guys are the worst.
But I'm like I'm an oblivious
I might be too thirsty.
Heterosexual, so I don't know. But I think when Lexa said I have feelings for you, that's the first time I was like, oh, okay, so that's the thing.
Right, because like
there's also there's like people see sexual tension between characters all the time, and then it either happens or it doesn't. And if it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, that's disappointing. And then so it's just like you made a prediction and it happened to be right. Doesn't mean that there was anything there.
I'm sorry, but I think a lot of people read a lot of sexual tension between these two.
I mean, in retrospect, you can see it, of course.
No, in retrospect, like what I said before was like after the Pauna episode, I'm like, I'm feeling something's happening here. Let me go check and see let me go check the temperature of other random people on the interwebs. And I went to AV Club, and the top comment was like, there's sexual tension here. And everyone's like,
right,
yes.
But shows like, and again, like, not to use a term from Season 3, but like, my people are used to being quote unquote queer baited. So like they'll put in sexual tension on shows, but never actually follow through. So to say that like, oh, there's sexual tension, that means something's going to happen, not necessarily.
Okay. I mean, and that's I think that's a very important point right now in the reading of the show from a non-hetero perspective, because you're used to just being baited and let down, right?
Yes,
Joe.
Yes,
and I'm not used to that. Like, I'm used to getting what I expect, And now what I expect, I'm like, oh yeah, these two are going to get together and it's going to be completely fucking boring because most heterosexual power dynamics are fucking boring. And Joe, to your point, you were baited and let down at some point with this show. Oh, little bit. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
You can't then say, I mean, you can't say that then she should have never died. I mean, that wouldn't be, yeah.
No, that's not what we're saying, Shahin. Not in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. But there's a way to do stuff, and there's a way to absolutely not do stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in season 10. Well, episode 10. We won't really get into it because I want to maintain as fair a read as possible, but I think there might be a podcast where we do get into it that is outside of our season reviews, because I think it's important for us to be as kind of impartial as we possibly can when it comes to social stuff. Although we've gone deep on social stuff in this podcast, and I blame myself and the scotch for it because you two have no control.
Is there thunder?
There's thunderstorm over here.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
I apologize, even though I have no control over it. But
damn it, Thor.
I feel like I should apologize.
Damn it, Storm. Monroe, why don't you have control over this?
So wait, so Shahin, what's your character arc? Like, choose one.
Joe's taking over. I'm not in.
I am taking over. You're shit. I took over last week, and I'll take over this week.
I want to do two of them.
Oh god damn it! That's gonna take 2 hours.
So as a huge ALIE fan, I'm gonna never stop talking about ALIE from now on. Because she was in the one episode, I'm just gonna pick her as my first character, and fuck people who say she's not a character.
Who says she's not a character?
I don't know. Some people do. They're like, well, I don't know if ALIE is a character.
She's most definitely a character, and she's a great character. So fuck them sideways, Shahin.
You get like fucking violent, like you get like half a dram of scotch in, and you're like ready to like fisticuffs the world.
Dude, we're not half a dram of scotch in. We're like countless drams of scotch in. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm like lit right now.
Anyway, so she says that time passes differently for her. And I think this is very important. I don't want to get too deep into this, but
you will.
But just keep this in mind that ALIE experiences time differently. And in light of what we know from season 3, we know why, right? Because she has the processing capacity to simulate the future. So there are certain things in the future that to her appear to be present. For her, it's as apparent and as obvious and as determined as the present or the past. That, of course, depends how far into the future it is, depending on how far she can simulate. But there is a point in the future that she sees as being as vivid as the present moment, and that really influences how she makes her decisions. If you think about season 3, and what she knew about 6 months later.
2 months, if you retcon whatever the fuck the writers are doing right now.
That's ridiculous. Even better if it's 2 months. It's closer. But yeah, so like to her, it's as obvious as the present moment, or as fixed as the past. So that explains a lot of what she does. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But
hey, Shahin, I want Joe and Shahin, I want to get your opinion. I really watched that ALIE scene very, very closely. Do you think she over-emoted in that scene?
Yes. I was thinking about that. Like, she didn't like tie down her real ALIE-ness until season 3.
Yeah, she smiled and she moved strange. I mean, she moved like
she breathed too much.
How dare she?
I feel like she does those things in season 3 too.
Not to the degree, like, she smiled in ways. She didn't seem as sort of, like, confused by humanity.
She smiled a bunch of times in season 3.
She didn't do, like, the
Different
head dog
smiles.
tilt.
Yeah, like the dog hearing a weird noise tilt that she liked to do in season 3. She just seemed way more human in her AI in season 2.
Now, credit to Erica Sarah. She didn't know exactly
where it was going.
Yeah, she didn't know her. I'm convinced that the writers and Jason Rothenberg didn't know exactly what they were going to do with her.
No, that's a fact. That's a known fact.
Because guys, when you saw the nuke at the end, what did you think that nuke was going to be?
I knew it wasn't going to be it wasn't going to be the obvious. I knew it wasn't going to be that she wants to bomb the world. I mean, if that were the case, I would have just stopped watching the show. So I was really, really hoping. So I think I convinced myself that that's not what she's
love this Monday morning quarterbacking that Shahin's doing right now. That, I knew that they weren't going to do the obvious with that nuke. I was like, she's going to fuck some shit up with that nuclear bomb. Maybe Shahin's just smarter than us, Joe.
I mean, okay.
Anyway, my second character thing is about Lexa. I always had this reading of Lexa, and I don't know how controversial this is, but I always felt like she always planned to reach a point where she basically abolishes juice drain, juice down. She was working towards that from the very beginning. And she was being very political about it and very smart about it. Because instead of, coming out right away and saying juice drain, no juice down, although I'm confused if it's juice drain, no juice down, or juice, no drain, juice down. Because that's how Clarke says it, but that sounds wrong. Anyway.
We're so pedantic.
She's not going to come out and say that. Instead, what she tries to do is reassign that sentiment to something more moderate or more appropriate. Like, she starts off by accepting one life in place of 18. Allowing justice to be something more abstract than you killed 18 people, so you need to feel the pain of 18 deaths. She was like, well, just kill him. That's enough. Right. And then, in the, I guess, part 1 of the 2-part finale, she says, we spare the innocent. As for the guilty, juice drain, juice down. So she's trying to sort of bring the grounder culture, show them a new paradigm of not completely forgetting juice drain, juice down, but reassigning it to something more appropriate and more moderate and more peaceful.
Okay,
which is what a lot of politicians do, and I think she's doing a good job of it.
When she accepted Cage's proposal, you mean?
No, when they were planning their attack, they were like, this is a rescue mission, we're not going to kill all of them. And then Lexa says, as Clarke said, we spare the innocent. As for the guilty, juice drain, juice down. Mm-hmm. Whereas for, normally for a grounder, it would be, let's open the door and let them burn. Let's just kill all of them. Right? That would be the meaning of juice drain, juice down for a grounder before Lexa. So she's trying to reassign the meaning of that. That we're just going to select a subset of these people and attribute guilt to them, and then we're going to kill them. So she's making, which you might say is also kind of arbitrary, but that's more, I suppose that's more humane.
Yeah. I mean, I think if she's looking at it in terms of like military versus civilian casualties, then it's reasonable. Like she's not being a dick about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like by our moral standards, it's definitely, I mean, obviously just wiping a population out is, if we had a person who advocated that, we would never consider them even morally like not only not fit to be a leader, but like we wouldn't even consider them morally mature enough to even be, among us. If they thought that we should go and like wipe out an entire...
Lexa's kind of been set up as this progressive, and these are Kane's words, progressive leader.
I mean, he says visionary.
Visionary, yeah. So she does kind of set up this. She does kind of back Clarke's, we spare the innocent type of thing, but we take revenge on the guilty. Which, I mean, when you're talking about a population that's confined to one small specific area on the map, it's going to be awfully tough to go, oh, that person's innocent and that person's guilty. So make sure your sword hits the right person. I think it's a good thought in theory, but in practice, it's not really practical.
Do you feel the same way about actual wars in the real world?
So again, I mean, if you think about drone strikes and sometimes they hit innocent people, it's hard to take a stance on that.
The criterion is that it shouldn't be there are 3 criteria for it. That you shouldn't be targeting the civilians, and the operation must be absolutely necessary, and the military gain must be proportional to the civilian loss.
But again, Shahin, let's call back to what Maya says when she's dying. She says, none of us is innocent. They're all complicit, either through inaction.
That's why I said it's kind of arbitrary. I mean, on a philosophical level, it's arbitrary to, who is guilty here and who's not.
Yeah, morally, it's hard to take a stance. Morally, you're like, oh, I mean, fuck. I mean, I can't necessarily come down on one side or the other because it's the gray area. And again, this show does gray area so well. You can't make a decision.
I feel like obviously,
Joe, I felt like you were like, Joe, you set up that this was going to be your podcast to be smart.
Did I?
And you're like, yeah, you fucking did.
What's your opinion, Joe?
Yeah, Joe. And have a citation for your opinion. Go.
Wait, my opinion on what?
Do you agree with my interpretation of Lexa?
I mean, I think that she is moving away from blood must not have blood, or moving away towards, I guess, blood must not have blood. I mean, I think that you could definitely find that in the text. What I found interesting in terms of her interactions, I guess, with Clarke was, and again, paying attention to it a bit more now in these rewatch, is she, the whole, you were born for this, Clarke, same as me. We learned about the whole Nightblood thing, and she was born for this destiny or whatever. But kind of seeing the way that she plays between being the commander and being Lexa, I think we saw a lot, or maybe I'm reading into it, that she kind of hates being the leader sometimes. She accepts that she is good at it. I think everybody does,
though, Joe.
Right.
Is that kind of like what's set up in season 2? Is being the leader kind of sucks.
Right, being the leader kind of sucks, but she arguably has a fucking birthright for it, as opposed to Clarke, who
she has
found herself in sort of this situation. And so,
wait, but Joe, time out. Clarke found herself in this situation, or Clarke put herself in this situation?
I mean, I'm saying found herself in the situation of she was sent to Earth and put in a situation where this latent skill of hers that she probably never would have figured out, or maybe she would have later on in life.
Oh, she was kind of, dude.
What?
Try hard is as try hard does. She would have been a try hard on the Ark as she is on the Earth. That's my opinion of Clarke.
But she might not have she might not have chosen to be chancellor. She might not have become the leader of her people. But I guess in terms of Lexa's arc, I could definitely see her kind of moving away from blood must have blood, but also in sort of parallel running to that, also kind of hating her own sort of position within this world. She didn't want to betray Clarke. She didn't want to have to make that decision. And I think once we get into season 3, we kind of, she realizes that was actually kind of the wrong decision in terms of, expecting to leave these people to
Yes.
their death, and it turns out, whoopsie daisies, they all lived, and now everyone thinks Lex is weak. But, you know, if we just talk about season 2, she definitely didn't want to betray the delinquents, the 100, Sky Crew. But
she didn't. And let's be clear about that. Something that wasn't shown, and this frustrates me. I don't know if it frustrates you guys, but y'all know kind of the backstory of the stuff that wasn't shown or didn't have like explanation to it.
Oh yeah, like they were supposed to be like gunned down and like really kind of show that things were not going to go well for the Grounders.
Like the Mountain Men were entrenched in a tunnel or something like that with guns out. That there was no way that they could have gotten past the Mountain Men in any sort of way. And I guess it was like.
Well, that's kind of a given.
A financial thing that they couldn't do that scene?
I mean, you know pretty much as a military leader any military leader who's worth their salt knows that when you're going through...
Like Shahin is.
Like Shahin, yes, exactly. That you're going through this, you're being funneled through this fucking narrow path where on the other side there are machine guns. That's not going to be an easy task.
Yeah, but the thing is with the show is, okay, so maybe they didn't have budget to actually create that scene, but there was never exposition to explain away. So there was a lot of internal stuff that I had to do to justify Lex's decision to myself. And I hate that the show made me do that. And I think the show makes us do that a shit ton in season 3. You know, I know
you could say that about a lot of characters. I think the point is that there's always enough to fill in to make sense of what that character does.
But Shahin, it's
to
like
understand that they have
certain,
a perspective.
But
there's not enough time to explain like everything every character thinks about.
Yeah, I agree with that, Shahin, but there are pivotal plot points that cannot be left to internal justification. Like,
I think a lot of it depends on how you feel about the character. Like, you might have felt strongly about Lexa, so you felt like she didn't get the justification that she deserved. And, you know, I might feel that way about ALIE. I feel like she was presented as this evil thing, and she could have said a lot in her defense that was never said.
And I think you could make the same argument for Bellamy in season 3.
Yeah, or Pike.
We know there was a lot of shit left on the cutting room floor for justification for actions. And I think there are some pivotal moments in each season where if we just got like a minute's worth of dialogue, it would have gone a long way to getting us over the hump and the intellectual justification that we needed to do to empathize with some of these characters and understand their motivations.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So
glad we're all in agreement.
But I think that Lexa's betrayal was actually, for me, I didn't see it coming, and it was it left me wondering how I feel about Lexa, but I never felt like I don't understand at all why she did this. I always felt like, oh yeah, I see why this is a smart move. I also think you're an asshole. So
like Clarke in that scene was just like wait quit? She's like, well, wait, quit? What's happening right now?
What I kind of got out of that, like at the time, again, like at that point, we had no idea that Lexa was coming back or anything like that. It honestly just felt like just pile more shit on top of Clarke. Like that was kind of where that storyline went, where it was like, all right, Clarke, how are you going to get out of this one? Also, like she was like being lowered into a tank, and they've like added sharks to the tank and lit the surface on fire, and her hands are bound behind her back. Like it was just upping and upping and upping and upping and being like, okay, go for it.
So Clarke, this is the worst day of your life. Go.
Yeah. Also sharks, also fire.
Yeah, sharks and fire. I think it's but Joe, I think a Sharknado would be more appropriate. Like, So she's in a tank of sharks, but there's like a Sharknado skimming the top. So even if she makes it to the surface, she's gonna be like facing Sharknado.
You've given this some thought.
No, this is just the Scotch talking at this point. So I need to talk about something that will be divisive.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you guys good with that? So
Right, because
I
if
believe,
we weren't, you would shut the fuck up.
wait, what?
If we weren't okay with it, you would gracefully back down.
No, you guys know better than that. So, to me, it's pretty obvious that season 2 is very focused on Clarke and her decisions that are made throughout the season and the stuff that she needs to do as a leader. Whether the seasons are good or bad, or I'm sorry, the decisions are good or bad. Wow. It is thundering in Pittsburgh.
Do you need to take
right
cover, Shahin? Like,
I think that
Shelter-
it
do you need a
sounds
shelter
louder
in
to
place,
you guys
dude?
than it does to me.
It's raining right here now in Houston. But it's not thundering. It's just raining. It'll probably flood because it's Houston, and that's just how we do. But I feel like there's a lot of I don't know if there's a lot of discussion, but for me, I feel like the discussion to irradiate Mount Weather and kill everybody is Clarke's decision and her decision alone. A lot of people want to attach Bellamy most of all, and then Monty, tertiary or secondarily to that decision. To me, it's like Clarke set herself up on this road to this showdown with both Dante and Cage when she sent Carl Emerson Mount Weather security detail back to Mount Weather with her message that she started a game of chicken that neither she nor Dante or Cage could come back from. And they just kept ramping it up. I think I was more shocked with her killing Dante than I was her irradiating level 5. Because that was a very personal choice for her to just like shoot dude in cold blood. What do you guys think about her shooting Dante?
I was going to say that I think we need to make a distinction between who made the decision and who's guilty of it. Because obviously it wouldn't have been possible without Monty. And obviously Bellamy endorsed it and helped shoulder the guilt. So,
but I think, though, that Joe makes a very, very good point when she says that Bellamy doesn't really make that decision to pull the lever until he sees that Octavia is in danger.
Yeah.
Again,
that's like
macro
for him,
versus
it's like what
micro
pushes
decisions.
him over the edge.
Yeah.
I think he is obviously on the edge. He's trying to talk Clarke out of it. But then
that doesn't mean that he's on the edge. He was firmly in the other camp, and then was like, "Oh shit, my sister! Let me put my hand on yours, Clarke."
Yo, guys, the thing was that Clarke to Bellamy specifically said, "Give me another decision. Give me another plan." Right. So throughout, like I've watched the finale like at least 5 times, and I've watched it from many different perspectives, and I tried to be as even keel as possible when it comes to who makes the actual decision versus who's in the passenger seat and who's riding in the back seat to this whole decision. To me, I believe that Clarke was. This was a decision that Clarke made that she was never going to be talked out of by Bellamy or Monty. So this was her decision. The actual pulling of the lever and Bellamy kind of like jumping in there was just Bellamy going, "Oh, Octavia's in danger. So let me support you in this decision, Clarke." But Clarke was never going to be put off this road unless somebody came up with a better decision that could save her mom and the rest of their people.
Can I ask, why is this so important? Whose decision it is? Because
a lot of people like to put the leadership position as a co-leadership position on Clarke and Bellamy, when I think it's obvious to me, and maybe it's just my bias coming through, that Clarke, like the whole journey of leadership in season 2 is Clarke's journey towards leadership. And
I think that maybe you and those people are talking past each other, because you mean one thing by that and they mean something else. So obviously, everyone at this point agreed. The moment Clarke said, "I'm in charge here," and Abby caved, everyone agrees that for the as far as fighting this war with Mount Weather is concerned, Clarke is the decision maker.
Yeah.
And, so that was a given.
To me, this is obvious, though, guys. I mean, why set
obvious,
up the whole dynamic between Lexa and Clarke talking about leadership ad infinitum for several episodes if it's not about Clarke's journey and her ultimate fall as a leader? Making a decision that
but I think that when a person
kills her
who says,
personally.
A person who says that the Clarke and Bellamy are co-leaders is looking more broadly at the entire show, the entire series, and they're saying
Shahin, he never makes a decision with Clarke, though, in season 2.
There are situations when, right. So this part of season 2 is one thing, but there are situations where Bellamy makes the decisions. There are situations when Kane makes decisions, or So the way I see it, I just see a bunch of people who are leaders, and they have different. They're responsible for different departments, or different factions or whatever, and they come and go at different times. They take charge, and then they hand it to someone else. Or go hang out in the jungle and
Bellamy
and
and
kill
Joe,
panthers.
feel free to jump in here. Do you think that anyone could have talked Clarke out of her decision to irradiate level 5 when she saw that Abby was in danger?
I mean, I think she tried to talk Cage out of that decision multiple times. I think, honestly, I put the blame.
I disagree with that, though. I think Clarke set herself up for her ultimate failure, and failure in a personal sense rather than.
You think that she should have sacrificed everyone in that room?
No, I mean, I think when she sent Carl Emerson back with her message to Mount Weather, I think she set herself on the path of playing a deadly game of chicken with the Wallaces and herself. I don't think she realized at that point in time what she was setting in motion.
Well, I think no one would have expected Cage not to cave. His sort of steadfastness in refusing to work with Sky Crew and figure something out. I put the blame on him. I think that Clarke was in a no-win situation. She gave him multiple outs.
I mean, she also made sure of that. Sorry, she also made sure of that by killing Dante. I mean, at that point, there was no coming back. And that was why Cage put Abby on the bed, and that's. I feel like you were saying how Octavia's presence changed Bellamy's mind. I think Abby being under the drill was definitely a factor in Clarke's decision. Because
Cage knew that too.
Yeah.
Because Cage did that after Clarke killed Dante.
Right.
So it's tit for tat at that point. You kill my father, I'm going to kill your mother.
Right.
Again, this game of chicken and Dante says it. It's Dante at some point says, neither of us have a choice here, Clarke. Mm-hmm. This path was set in motion. The decisions were set in motion far prior to any of the things that happened in any of these 4 episodes that we're discussing.
Yeah. Again, great statement of perspectivalism. It's basically saying if Dante was our main character, you would have sympathized with him at this point. Mm-hmm. Because every decision that he made was basically, given the choices that he was given, you can't say it was a bad decision. But here we are, and this is where he ended up. I want to say something that's divisive.
Well, Shahin, before you say something that's divisive, I want to ask you: Do you think that Dante is the most moral person in season 2, given his perspective?
Oh wow, I don't know. I mean, I don't. That would involve me deciding what the right thing to do was, and I don't know if I'm in a position to do that. But I think that in terms of moral ambitions, if that's what you're asking, I think that he's probably not really different from Clarke or Kane or any of the other people, or Jaha, or any of the people that we know. I feel like they're all in the same predicament in a way, and they all kind of want to do what they consider to be in the interest of the greatest number of people.
Jesus Christ, Shahin, what is happening in Pittsburgh? Shelter in place, guys.
Yeah, sorry about this.
Yeah, it happens. Weather.
Or at least their own people. So, you know.
So what was a divisive thing that you wanted to say to me so we can have saltiness and fight, battle, fight, as the Houston Texans would say?
I just wanted to say that going off of the point that Abby being on the bed really influenced Clarke's decision and made her make a hasty decision, in my opinion. Because if you kind of remove that factor, if you just think of it as, all right, someone is on the bed, but you know, whatever, my people are being killed, and they're being killed at this rate, so I have this much time to do something, and that would have probably been hours, and you know.
Oh, I disagree. I don't think after Clarke saw Fox, her dead body just kind of like limply being dumped, and then. I agree with you that I think the immediacy was very present for Clarke once she saw Abby on the table. But I don't think she would.
But I mean, we know that they take
let Raven die, let this dude die, let this girl die.
I mean, sure. I mean, as opposed to let 380 people die. I mean, of course. I mean, your person. She has personal connections to them, but doesn't make them more. Doesn't make their life worth more. I mean, she has a choice.
She unlike Maya, she doesn't have personal connections to the people in Mount Weather.
Okay, right, and I consider that to be a moral flaw. If that's what you're
interesting.
If that's explicitly your consideration, like she is in a situation where she has to explicitly consider this. This is not a situation like, oh, there are people who need help and I don't know them. Maybe I should, you know. This is like I have right now. I'm at this juncture. I have to pull the switch. Either the trolley goes down this path or goes down that path. And under this path, 5 people die. Under that path, 1 person dies. And, you know, now she's thinking, there's no way that this is not explicit in her head, that I am going to kill these 5 people because I care so much about that 1 person. I'm partial with respect to that 1 person, so I'm going to let all these other people die. Even though I have friends who are, you know, as partial with respect to those people as I am with respect to my mom. But because it's not my girlfriend, you know, it's fine. I can ignore that. So at that point, you know, that has to be the way that she's thinking. Otherwise, she must be thinking, all right, deep breath. They're killing Raven, but if the choice is let Raven die or kill 300 innocent people, maybe I should think this through. And maybe there's a way. Like I have this much time because, you know, they take 8 doses from each person, and that we've seen how much time that takes. So you have so much time to, you know, you can devise a plan, infiltrate level 5, reestablish contact with Jasper for fuck's sake, see what he's up to. Maybe he has a plan, you know, and tell him to do his plan better. I mean, what was that about? I mean, the plan was actually pretty good because that guy, the Sergeant Lee, he had a gun and he was in the dorm. So he could have like.
I'm sorry, Shahin. I would never shove my chips all in on Jasper. Have you seen that dude?
No.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
but the point is that something like Jasper's plan could have worked. Like they could have sent Bellamy in, infiltrate level 5, and try to kill Cage and take over the dorm, and then hopefully there will be a leadership vacuum. Or they will just decide to change course.
So Jasper had himself in one guard versus Cage and like how many guards were there, Joe? What's your take on this?
I mean,
look, they got through. They got Bellamy to infiltrate Mount Weather. They went through trash chutes. They went through this and that. There would have been a way. There could have been a way to get into level. I mean, your choices.
There could have, but there wasn't enough time for them to see if one of these plans was actually going to
Shahin, again, we have the narrative bias of knowing what Jasper's plan was.
I'm not drawing on any information that Clarke didn't have. Nor did I in the case of...
Clarke had no idea that Jasper was free and could get out of his handcuffs.
Whose fault is that? She should have contacted the rest of her team. I mean, when you're out of options, you regroup, make contact with the rest of your team, and you ask them, what do you think we should do? You don't just
She didn't have that luxury. She didn't have a radio to talk to Bellamy at that time. Bellamy was already in play doing whatever Bellamy was doing. Like, You
mean Jasper?
You're like, she didn't have the information, right? I mean, Joe might have.
What information? Look, what I'm saying is she should have taken a deep breath and started to think about a new plan. And we know that there could have been another plan because Jasper had one. I mean, he sucked at...
Jasper's plan was shit.
No,
Jasper's
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Joe.
Jasper's plan was great,
Jasper,
actually.
Little wafy Jasper, like, I'm going to overpower... I'm going to kill...
A room full of guards?
Yeah, Cage.
No. He wasn't going to kill... He had an armed ally. The Sergeant Lee was with him.
Versus
in the
how
room.
many other people? Cage had
there was
he
just
had the
Cage.
doctor, he
there
had
was just
other
Cage
guards.
and a couple of guards, and they could have
Versus
easily
two
taken
people.
him. They could have easily taken him. They could have tried. I mean, your choice is try to take 3 people. And you have armed allies.
And Clarke was privy to none of this.
None of
Clarke
what?
saw
She knew they
her
had
mom
armed allies.
on the table. Clarke saw her mom on the table, and if you saw like the scene where they showed like how many samples they had already taken from Abby, it was like 6.
But that's
maybe?
what I'm saying. That's one person who's dying.
But it's Clarke's mom again.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So that's what makes her decision questionable. She's preferring
if
her mom's
decision is
life to 300 innocent
then
people.
all of Bellamy's decisions are questionable as well. Like everyone's decision.
Yeah. I'm just saying that I don't agree that Clarke's decision was the only choice and she had no other choice. She likes to say that, but that's not true. She just didn't take the time to think it through. It's not true that she had no... There are always other choices as long as you have time. The only time there is no other choice is when you have no time. And this is not one such situation because she had plenty of time. As long as she was willing to sacrifice some of her people instead of 300 innocent people.
Yeah. Well, again, we're going down a rabbit hole. I think we need to talk about the other narrative that's taking place that we kind of like haven't concentrated on. It is Jaha and Murphy and how interesting and great and visually distinctive it was from the rest of the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So Joe, talk to us a little bit about...
That ties to Joe's favorite quote. Tell us your favorite quote,
Yeah, exactly.
Joe.
It does. So favorite quote was actually Murphy saying, "Your promised land sucks."
Murphy is so great.
To
Joe,
Jaha.
I swear.
Which I especially enjoyed because it could be applied to the entire experience of Earth. Like all of the Arkers were promised that one day they would return to the ground and that like it would be great and they wouldn't have to breathe recycled air anymore and it would be awesome. Meanwhile, they return to the ground. Jasper gets like a spear thrown through him. Like everyone dies. Clarke kills everyone. And, yes, the promised land that Jaha has tried to lead them to in terms of the City of Light sucks. The land that Clarke and Lexa and the Mountain Men are fighting over sucks. It's just all terrible, and I appreciated that from Murphy.
Joe and Shahin, did you guys like the whole fucking visual of the minefield and them like just sitting in place and waiting for the sandstorm to pass? That was so fucking beautiful.
I know. Everything with the Dead Zone is just amazing.
I loved how after I think that they blew up and then they came back to the minefield, but they still, if you watched it, you could still hear sort of the ear ringing. Like if you listen to the audio in that, like you could hear like this sort of disorientating.
They did a really good job,
and they like faded in and out of that. I thought that was like a really, really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love like the after the minefield explodes and they come back to the scene and they're covered in dust from the sandstorm and they're all kind of white and stationary. I tried to find there's like an image in my mind of that in art that I think I've seen of like white like kind of creepy statues. That whole like visual aesthetic is so different from the shit that's going on with the Grounders and Mount Weather that I really appreciate.
I think that's generally true about this show is just when they switch like from in either part to another, like from the ground to Mount Weather or from the Dead Zone to, it's just a shock and it feels great because it looks so different, but it looks good. So,
I mean, if they're chasing the City of Light, then shouldn't they be lit in gold the entire time? Like, I mean, that's what they had some fun with color temperature, which I think is,
Visually, did you guys have any trouble identifying what the array of solar panels was? Like, I didn't understand. Like, when I first watched it, I didn't know what it was when I first saw it. Like, I couldn't process what it was supposed to be.
I mean, I'm curious.
After we saw the panels?
Yeah, I'm like, to me it looked like a city, but I didn't know what it was supposed to be. Like, I did not. It didn't click with me that it was a solar panel array.
Well, because usually we don't put solar panel farms on the East Coast, but I guess that,
really?
Society
prime real estate
has
along the coast, Joe, is not solar panels.
I mean, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to do their job, but I guess maybe we're also supposed to assume that, global warming, blah, 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 and somehow that there's sunlight all the time and not winter, on the East Coast now, which, okay, I guess.
Well, I think for me, aesthetically, like, I found the Dead Zone and ALIE and the Lighthouse so distinctly jarring.
So much promise. It had so much promise.
But I think it fulfilled its promise, though, in season 3, though, Joe.
No, I wanted to stay there. Like, I wanted to stay in this, like, crazy-ass mansion. Like, I wanted more of that. Like, so is Murphy gonna... Wait, here's the question. Like, is Murphy gonna take everyone back to his fucking bunker? Like, he's gonna choose and be like, so I've got a bunker. I've got some liquor and a motorcycle.
Wait, motorcycle? What are you talking about, motorcycle?
There was a motorcycle in there.
Are you fucking serious?
No, there was totally a red motorcycle, like a cruiser, probably some sort of expensive-ass Harley, like, chilling down there. Because the guy who, like, owned it...
Oh my God, I've watched the finale like 30 times and I missed that. I guess I must have been like, that's a lot of wine.
Look over it.
Clearly, I find that we show our predilections. You are thirsty and...
So, guys, like this show, I find the vestiges, like the remnants of our world, so visually jarring.
Yeah.
That it's...
That's what I was going to say, Jen. I was going to say that I find that the visuals of the Dead Zone constantly remind me of this is humanity's past and this is humanity's future. You know, like to obviously to the characters, they're constantly reminded of the past. I mean, everyone is kind of being affected by the apocalypse, but Jaha and his team are the only ones who are directly, you know, experiencing the remnants of the disaster with their flesh and bones.
But guys, though, like walking into the lighthouse and walking into that mansion, I was like, this does not fit with the show. That's what I felt like at the time. Like, this is so dissonant from the rest of the show. Like, I guess I bought into the grounders, the savages and savage culture, and then I see this lighthouse with a wine selection and crackers and scotch, and then the mansion with furniture, like nice furniture and ALIE. It's so weird.
I think that was kind of the best part, though, is to see crusty John Murphy like find this bunker, and like he finds this wealthy crazy guy's like man cave.
Yeah.
Like, of all things. Like, there's a motorcycle and wine and a TV and leather, and like it's this whole thing, and like he has found paradise.
Yeah.
Except it turns out that when you're locked, like, but then it turns out when you're locked in paradise and forced to watch a suicide over and over, like, it's not great. But like, I love that it was John Murphy who sort of like this was his promised land.
Yeah.
And it still sucked.
This is again
it still sucks.
To draw on my analogy from last time, this is the positive nihilist's promised land. It's this world, just right here, the pleasure of the present moment. And, you know, so it's very fitting that that's where he stops. And that's where he takes off. That's where he parts ways with Jaha, because Jaha is looking for a better world. You know, the Knight of Fate is looking for a better world, but the nihilist, the positive nihilist, will just stay and affirm this present moment. But
I mean, John is kind of surrounded by the creature comforts that they haven't been afforded on Earth. I mean, he's got a fucking pool table, guys.
Right.
I mean,
or the Ark, like
crackers and scotch. What more do you need? And like Jaha's, Jesus Christ. I mean, his whole journey, he is so willing to sacrifice anybody and anything for his vision. And I don't understand at this point. I don't understand like why he has so much faith in this thing that until the very end of the finale, he hasn't seen the actual manifestation of his beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what makes him the Knight of Faith. If you had seen it, that wouldn't be faith. That would just be.
But so he's blindly following kind of this journey of faith. I mean, he sacrifices people left and right for his beliefs in something that might not exist.
But he believes that it does.
But the way that he sees it, the only other option is we keep killing each other off. And, you know, he's not exactly wrong about that. So he would rather gamble on this one.
Yeah, but I mean, what is he gambling on, though? I mean, at this point in time, he doesn't know that ALIE exists. The City of Light is this rumored thing. And then when he actually sees what he thinks is the City of Light, it's just like a solar array?
You have to like see it from his sort of perspective, which is like he has to believe that it's better than what he's experiencing now. Like, he believes that where they are at right now is rock fucking bottom, and that anything else is better.
But how does he know this? I guess this goes back to your Knight of Faith, though, Shahin.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, this is the kind of choice that Jaha has always been presented with. There's on the one hand, you have what looks like certain death, complete annihilation of your people and possibly humanity in general. I mean, he is not really. He's not a partialist. He cares about humanity, and on the one hand, you have complete annihilation of humanity. On the other hand, you have some really, really unlikely possibility. This really thin chance that you might save your people. And he's always been forced into a situation where he has to take that leap of faith. And, you know, we saw in the flashback in season 3 where he talks about how sending the 100 to the ground was a leap of faith for him, too.
I mean, that's all Jaha does is fucking leaps of faith.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I think that's something that we're going to like, I wonder how much more cautious his character is going to be in season 4, having like done, you know, these huge, like, again, you know, leaps of faith throughout the first 3 seasons, and it all ended horribly. And so is he going to be a much more cautious character, or is he going to be like even more of a fucking zealot? Like that all of this was trials.
Well,
Joe,
it would have been fine
it
if
ended
Clarke
horribly in our
hadn't fucked it
perspective,
up.
but like his leaps of faith were correct. That's the weird thing.
Except until the whole ALIE thing. And I think that like I wonder what he's gonna reconcile. Like,
well, the ALIE thing was gonna be fine if Clarke hadn't fucked it up.
Oh, for fuck's goddamn sake!
Fucking Clarke! How dare she?
For the first time in ever, he united everyone.
Under brainwashing.
Well, that's
very good point.
You know,
very
that's
good
where
point, Joe. Very good.
That's
point.
just a little detail.
That's where we have to like stop and really talk about that, because you know, that I have a lot to say about that.
Not today.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
But we're like going in so far. Joe is officially sick of us, so let's get into
let's do it.
Let's get into interesting tidbits, tomfoolery, and shenanigans. I mean, we've skipped a lot in this podcast because we've gone down some rabbit holes. And Joe's like, I'm done with you guys. How do I quit this non-paying part-time job that I have?
Yeah, right? Like, damn. All right, tidbits.
Yeah. So I guess, Joe, you could start.
Oh, I have to go first?
Well, I mean, you might as well, bitch.
So one thing that I noticed was Jasper repeatedly telling people that they were going to be okay, or that, like, he would protect them. And, like, that has become as much of a death sentence as sleeping with Clarke.
I love how Jasper tells Fox, it's going to be okay, and she dies.
Dead. Yeah, no, anytime some, like, extra that you've never seen has a line and they talk to Jasper, it's not going to end well. Like,
and it's like, that's so awesome, because that never happens on other shows. It's like, every time a character says, you're going to be okay, it's always true. And I'm like, how do they know that? You don't know that. You're just whistling Dixie here. And in this case,
look at Shahin breaking out
with the colloquialisms.
That's actually a line from Fargo. So it's like, you know, there has to be at least sometimes when they actually end up dying, and this is great.
All of them happen with Jasper.
She does. And they save her once, so you're like, oh man, this happened again. Like, just because he said you're gonna be okay, she has to be safe now. And then she dies in the next episode, so not that I'm enjoying that.
Don't trust Jasper's reassurances. Don't trust Clarke's bedroom eyes. These are the lessons of the 100.
So basically, do not get on Clarke's agenda.
No, but here's my question. So what if Jasper tells Clarke she'll be okay, and then Clarke seduces Jasper? Is that like putting buttered toast on the back of a cat and it'll just spin? Like, in the air?
Joe, why do you even introduce this concept so late into our podcast? Like,
hold on. Jasper told Octavia that it's going to be okay in season 3. Should we expect something?
I mean,
is that foreshadowing?
The fact that they're hinting that things are not going to be okay with Octavia. I mean, yeah.
Sometimes it's just like a dark spell. It's not death necessarily, but
So if you live in a bunker and Jasper tells you it's going to be okay, it's not going to be okay. What about you, Jen? What's your tidbit of the week?
So I love how the episode after Donde is bombed in Total Resurrection, Clarke's got a hard-on for killing everybody that is even slightly associated with the mountain. So I'm going to kill all the mountain men. I'm going to kill the spotter. And Lux is like, yes, my pretty. Go kill them all. I thought that was really interesting. Like Clarke's just like, fuck it. I want to kill them. I want to kill all of them. And then she actually kills somebody.
And then she's like, oh, this was not fun.
It was all right. I mean, if I had to give it a Yelp review, probably around a 4 or 5.
This is Clarke rating her murder?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Clarke
she's
thinking,
like,
it's going to be better than it was.
Yeah.
It looked a lot better on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you, Shahin.
Shahin. Joe is just moving us right along.
Yeah,
Joe's
I don't have time for your drunken bullshit.
Fuck all y'all.
So I just wanted to point out that, kind of going back to what we talked about last time, it took less than 24 hours for Bellamy's cover to be blown. So that's roughly 10 lives Clarke took for every hour of Bellamy's cover.
She's efficient. I'll give her that.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that bullshit.
If I had to rate her work rate, pretty damn good.
So anyway, why do people keep telling wounded patients to stay awake? Like Abby is like,
oh, that's a
Abby
concussion.
is telling like, you have to stay awake. I'm like, just let him fucking sleep.
No,
like it's not like
no.
you sleep, you die.
It is.
No, with
that
the
is
concussion,
actually...
yeah, you do.
No way.
Yeah,
Yes,
so you
a
keep them
concussion,
awake
you have to stay
to monitor for swelling, brain swelling. They need to be able to like continue to talk and ask questions and be coherent. And if they're not, then they probably maybe have a brain hemorrhage.
No,
Sure, but like
never
them
let
going to
Shahin be my
sleep doesn't mean that they died.
Well, but it means that
gonna
you
die.
can't be sure whether or not they are still coherent.
Well, you
Like, do you
can
wanna
make
keep
sure
on-
when you wake them up. Like, in other words, going to sleep is not going to kill them.
But it makes it a lot more time consuming to monitor. Like, are they asleep? Are they dead? Like, then you have to go wake them up, and then they're crabby, and then you have to give them a glass of water, and somebody has to pee.
Like, isn't Abby like pinned by debris and she can't get to Kane to have their sexy times?
Yeah. I think that's what's supposed to we're supposed
Yeah,
to
so
assume.
I mean Kane, and this goes into my actuallys, like, isn't Kane's like legs crushed or some shit like that? But everybody in this show is like, oh, I got shot in Lincoln's case. Kane is crushed by debris. Abby's crushed by debris. Wick and Raven are blown the fuck up. But they all have Wolverine's healing factor. They're all like fucking like mutants. They're Factor X mutants.
I mean,
I don't
they're
understand
aliens,
this shit.
technically.
It's just like, oh, we'll walk it off. I just got shot, but I'll walk it off. Like,
Right, like I kind of expected Lincoln in season 3 to just like get up out of that dirty mud puddle and be like, cool, so deuces.
like when Lincoln got shot by Clarke.
Oh my god, let's not even talk about how Clarke's aim is not that good.
Like, and like, it's just like, oh, good shot. And he's like fucking shot in like, dude, he's shot in the chest at this point.
It's the shoulder
right?
meat. No, but on TV, if you're shot in the shoulder, you're fine.
Apparently so. And if we're
Well,
following,
I mean,
like, the
it
logic
didn't
of the
hit
show,
any vital organs and it exited. So
but if you're following
he's
the
going to
logic,
be in a lot of pain, but he's going to be fine.
but the thing is, though, Shahin, if you're following the logic of the show, Abby's like digging in Lincoln's shoulder with her dirty ass finger to find that.
Oh my
bullet.
god, Abby's fucking hands.
the bullet passed through. So yeah,
Yeah, the
but
bullet
Abby
went
is
through,
probing
so.
that wound with her dirty ass finger just because that's what Abby does. Here, let me give you some. Let me give you an infection. Let me give you some staph.
No. So what
quick.
Abby does, so our younger listeners might not remember the days when kids got chicken pox. And what would happen is if one kid got chicken pox, your mom would send you over to that kid's house so that you could get chicken pox.
Really?
What Abby is doing is sort of immune therapy on everyone. She's giving them just enough dirt for them to, you know, build up an immune response. And now season 4, they're actually going to be immune to the radiation because they have built up this white blood cell count from Abby's dirty fingers.
Abby's dirty fingers and the stagnant water that she tries to feed the people.
No,
her
Abby is going to be the hero of the show because she has made sure that all of her people have like gone through appropriate, you know, health trials. Am I the only?
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, if you don't want to get sick, you just have to start gulping down bacteria, you know?
Everyone's just going to be licking Abby's hands next season.
Yeah, just like...
Abby, I have cut myself. Could you stick your dirty ass finger in it? And then I'm going to bathe in like this tepid, stagnant bacterial water that you want to make your own daughter drink?
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps your immune system.
I mean, all of this tracks, I'm just saying.
What? Joe, what if this is the way that they survive season 4?
That's what I
It just turns out it's fine. It's just like, okay, I guess it's not that bad. And that's the end of the season.
Abby's dirty ass fingers and her inability to like not stop us from getting infected by her shit saves us all.
Yeah.
I called it. Mark the day and the time, everyone. if we're gonna have our predictions podcast, like that's like number 2.
So okay, I have a real. Well, actually,
okay.
These weren't real. How dare you, Shahin?
All right, moving past that. So no, but I mean, this is. I don't know if this is funny, but this is a serious issue. Like, who the fuck gave the order to the Arkers to retreat? So here's the situation: Lexa betrays Clarke, and she sounds the horn, the retreat horn. And then all the grounders leave. Okay, so at this point, the Arkers are still under Clarke's command, right? So she has to tell them to leave. But
Debatable.
we never saw that. And they're like, they just take off. And they're like, come on, Clarke, let's go. So either she told them, you go back, I'm staying here, in which case they would say, yes, sir, and go. Or she didn't, in which case they can't leave.
Well, so I think we can chalk this up to budgeting. They had enough extras for the grounder army, but they could not afford a bunch of extras in terms of Sky Crew army, and all of our like main players, all of our like named cast and non-red shirts were already occupied elsewhere. So Clarke was
but who gave the order?
Remember Clarke was never in an official quote unquote position of power. I think they were all just like, well, that didn't turn out well. I'm just gonna go home and like. I mean, maybe
she was reassigning people's posts and shit. Like she was like, you go fight over here, and or like, I mean, there has to be someone they take their orders from. Like, was it Miller's dad? Like, was like who?
I think they were all just like
they just left. I mean, you can't do these. It was just like, all right, I guess this went down the toilet.
I think they were all just like, well, this didn't turn out too well. I'm just gonna go home and like maybe I don't know, watch some.
Make
Oprah.
a cup of tea.
Make
Clarke is like,
catch up on the DVR.
I don't even give a shit. Go ahead and desert your posts. I don't even care. Just go.
And Clarke was left at the end, like just staring out whether like, thanks guys, and everyone is like pieced out on her. Yeah,
and Monroe deserted her, and like everyone is just like, all right, I guess we go home now. Can we take a moment to just recognize that Lexa ordered Octavia to be murdered? Just like,
oh my god,
she fucking can.
Just like she was like, yeah, let's just murder Octavia.
And Clarke is like, well, you just can't order anybody to be killed. And Lexa's like, well, yeah,
she's like, sure, I can.
No, did you guys not find that reasonable? Like, I completely bought that as part of the character. Like, yeah, she's the fucking leader. Of course she can fucking do whatever she wants.
Yeah, and in order to, like, protect yourself, yeah.
Is this another, like, grounder free murder pass? Like, would we have reacted the same way if this was a sky person?
Look,
Just like randomly ordered someone murdered?
no,
Because
I mean,
they're
if it wasn't
potentially a
sexy
problem?
Lexa, we'd be like, fuck this shit. But since it's sexy Lexa, we're like, I'll give you a day pass for this.
I'll give you a week pass, sexy Lexa.
Oh.
Oh. I mean, I think in terms of like, oh, would we have cared whether or not, it was a sky person condemning a grounder to die? I mean, they've already like done that and done some pretty horrible torture things. But I think it's still in the context of who Lexa is, and she is the leader and owner of the free world. Like, she doesn't kind of have to play by those rules.
And she faces some very, like, really bad results if Octavia reveals what happened. Like, the coalition dissolving because of this information. That's big. That's big stuff, guys. In the middle of this assault on Mount Weather.
So you're basically justifying assassination.
Yes.
Assassination without due process is okay, as long as it's sexy Lexa.
I'm sorry, is the United States Constitution in place right now? A due process? What the fuck are you talking about? This is Lexa. She's like, press a button, you die. That's it.
She's got shit to do.
Yeah, she's like...
She's got ambassadors to kick out of windows.
I got ambassadors to kick out of windows. I've got people to kill. I've got Clarke to kiss. I don't have time for Octavia. Oh, speaking of...
So just to be clear, we're completely biased about this.
Exactly. Yes. Speaking of Octavia, I have to say that one of my favorite scenes of the whole fucking series is Octavia's sword throw and cleats up baseball slide into that Mount Weather.
Right, what
garden.
The fuck was that?
That was
what
so...
the fuck was that?
And knowing that Marie does all of her own stunts, I'm like, I want to have sex with you right now. That was so awesome.
So as someone who has like done a fair bit of like combat, like physical combat, martial arty kind of things, you do not become a baseball slide sword throw expert in 2 weeks.
Hand wave.
Was it even 2 weeks? I feel like it was 2 days.
I'm being generous.
Exactly, Shahin. It's like
I feel like she got the shit beaten out of her, and Indra was like, "Come train with me," and then suddenly she's a fucking ninja.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Every time interval on this show needs to be multiplied by a factor of at least 3,
7 years,
4, 5, sometimes 10.
Every single time I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite scenes. I'm like, oh, but this is one of my favorite scenes.
Because it's a goddamn lie.
That scene is so fucking sexy.
I mean, it's cool as shit.
It's cool as shit.
Here's the thing. It's not too fast with respect to the story. Like, in the story, it feels like enough time passed. Like, in terms of, like, you see one episode and you see another episode, like, the changes are gradual. And if it were supposed to really take place over like the course of a month or 6 months or however much it takes to become that good, assuming you're like really talented and motivated, then it would be boring as fuck. Like, you wouldn't watch that show. So
I would watch a training montage any day of the fucking week, as long as they put good music.
But the thing is, like, there are shows where it seems like, or even on this show, sometimes it seems like things went too fast, right? Especially in season 3, a lot of times it felt like it went too fast. So there are times when it doesn't feel like it went too fast. It's like, all right, that was perfect pacing. And then you think about it and you're like, wait a minute. That was just 2 fucking days. Like, how did that...
Back to Joe's point, training montage. Is anyone's like sexual orientation like a Jean-Claude Van Damme training montage in any of his like 80s and 90s movies? Like,
I am the Wet Hot American Summer parody training montage. That is my aesthetic.
I'm gonna need to watch that to understand you more.
Okay, I think you should. Yeah,
but like anything like Kill Bill training montage or Kill Bill 2 training montage, like any Jean-Claude Van Damme, any martial arts movie, because I grew up with Samurai Sundays up in the suburbs of Chicago. Training montages, that's my sexual aesthetic. I love them. But we kind of got that a little, I don't know if we even got that.
I think we just have to hand wavy Octavia's.
Hand wave.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
Magic. But I fucking like, I love that scene. I fucking love that scene because it's so smooth, and Marie does all of her stunts, guys. You know, Marie was just like, this isn't my body double. This is me sliding into this dude, cleats up, sliding into home. So next podcast episode, next podcast episode, because that will be, this might be a two-parter, but next podcast episode, we will be covering season 3, episodes 1 through 4. Some great and troublesome episodes of season 3.
I feel like that's our intro for all of season 3. There will be some great and troublesome moments.
A love-hate relationship with season 3. It's so hard to talk about. And we'll put those in perspective and context, guys, when we get to them. What are we watching, Joe?
I am watching Killjoys.
I love you.
Yeah.
I love
Thank you. I know.
Talk to me about Killjoys and how awesome it is, and how you love me for recommending this show.
Killjoys. So the first season started off like it's a little hokey or whatever, and then they kind of changed the credits and kind of fell into it really well with season 2. It's sort of, if I had to like give it a this meets that, it's sort of Firefly meets either Dollhouse or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Alias, like something. It's
interesting.
It's about space bounty hunters, but then there's also a huge layer of mythology that they like really sink their teeth into in the second season. So at first it's, space bounty hunters and like kicking ass or whatever, and then like they kind of hint that one of the characters, maybe has like a deep dark. I'm going to mention this because it is a spoiler, but the fact that it has become a complete and total trope means that I am not spoiling anything, but there's fully playing into we have a mysterious female who is really good at kicking ass. She has a dark past where like she was maybe robbed of her childhood. There's a father figure who kind of still pulls her strings. Like all of the shows do this.
Yeah.
But fuck it. I like it. Don't, threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, so again, like I recommended this show first. Joe is recommending it
TV
second.
Hipster. I know, so people are going to watch it now.
Everyone is going to watch it now that Joe recommended it, but they just had the penultimate episode to season 2, and it contained all the feels. So the one thing I really appreciate about Killjoys is that it has at its heart a platonic relationship between a man and a woman for
shame
between Dutch and Johnny Jacoby, where they really find their strength in one another. And oh man, I mean,
they don't put their pee-pees in one another.
No, they do not put their pee-pees in one another. And like Dutch finds her moral center in Johnny Jacoby, and Johnny is, sometimes he strays from the path, and I wouldn't say betrays Dutch, but he follows his heart. And I think there's, folks might find a little parallel between The 100 and Killjoys, but I think it's a great show. There are some, it's one of those shows,
and cheesy.
Yes,
but season 2, it definitely like hits its stride.
Exactly, but there, even in season 2, though, there are some throwaway episodes where I'm like, but
really, Dolls from Winona Earp was in an episode.
Yes,
so that's something.
So they do some unexpected things in season 2 where they get kind of crazy. But there are some just great emotional touch points in season 2 that I really appreciate, especially between Johnny and Dutch, and even Davin as a sexual partner to Dutch in season 1, who doesn't continue that necessarily in season 2, and it doesn't complicate things. Like, how, like, in normal shows...
Wait. Some people are going to be listening and think, like, oh, you've just spoiled something. But honestly, when the two of them meet, you're like, they're going to fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not even a spoiler.
There's no question that Dutch and Davin are going to fuck. But in season 2, their relationship and their dynamic changes in a way that's really good, and they become found family in a lot of the same ways that Johnny, Jacoby, and Dutch become found family. And there's something really important to be said about platonic relationships between men and women that aren't really accounted for in a lot of shows, and a reason why I don't read Bellarke as romantic. So guys, watch Killjoys. Sci-Fi is doing some great stuff, and looking forward into the future, Sci-Fi is going to be doing, like, I think 3 new shows. Van Helsing with a female lead, Incorporated or Incorporation, I can't remember, from the production company of Ben Affleck and what's his name? Matt Damon. It looks really interesting. And then there's this other show which is based on copy pasta. I can't remember the name of it, but it looks kind of creepy and really interesting. Just guys, check out Sci-Fi, dude. They're like so under the radar now. And my shit is Joe's like, oh, I'm watching Killjoys. It's fun and it's interesting and it has mythology. And I'm like, hey guys, watch this shitty drama on Freeform, which I think it was ABC Family, called Pretty Little Liars. I'm almost embarrassed that I'm into
what
this
do you
show.
mean almost? I'm embarrassed for you.
It's one of those trashy dramas that's like so convoluted and at times low effort, that there are these little nuggets that really make me appreciate the show and just laugh out loud. I'm like, this show is so fucking stupid. I love it. So Pretty Little Liars, I think it's into season 7 live right now. It's available on Netflix. I'm in midway through season 4. It's just like, I don't even know what's happening. But it's just kind of fun to watch. And I think though it doesn't necessarily steer away from LGBT controversy with one of its main characters. So sorry guys, but it's just like, well, like every episode there's like a quote that I'm like, this show is so fucking stupid. I love it.
I would like to ask our viewers or listeners, if anyone watches Dark Matter, to like let us know if we should watch it, because like gets pimped really hard on Killjoys, but like it also looks like a step below Killjoys. That's what I meant to say. So Killjoys is basically Firefly meets La Femme Nikita, but I'm talking the old La Femme Nikita with Peta Wilson, like in its like visual aesthetic.
Oh, you're not even going for the CW La Femme Nikita, which I really enjoy.
I don't talk about La Femme Nikita beyond the Peta Wilson La Femme Nikita.
Oh my god, we might come to blows over this, Joe. I love the CW version.
I think I watched a few episodes and I was like, ugh.
Dude,
it was
you need to give that shit a second shot, dude. Listeners,
is it worth
watch. It? Yes. Oh my god, it becomes so good. And it has one of the leads on 12 Monkeys too, which is so strange because I never envisioned him becoming a lead in any show based on what I saw in La Femme Nikita.
Who?
Or Nikita, as it's just called on the CW. And that stars Maggie Q.
Right, but who on 12 Monkeys was on La Femme Nikita?
Nikita. I don't even know how to spell Nikita. This is so horrible. I don't even know how to spell it. Oh, here we go.
I love that we're listening to you just mash your keyboard, and I'm imagining you like typing with your just pointer fingers.
So Aaron Stanford, who was Seymour Burkhoff. Yeah, he was Burkhoff. He is James Cole. He is the lead. He's the male lead on 12 Monkeys.
That's all I wanted to know.
Y'all need to fucking watch, y'all. That was great on, of course, Sci-Fi.
Are you watching anything, Shahin?
I am watching Harmon Quest like over and over and over again.
Is that
I can't get enough of it, and I'm not gonna watch anything else until this stops being fun, which seems like is never gonna happen. So
And that's on
Shahin is just
CISO,
stuck
right?
in a
I'm
this
just
is your
stuck.
city of
I'm
light.
just not gonna watch TV anymore, guys.
So
Except
that
for the podcast.
you said that's on CISO.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Until next week, everyone.
Oh my god, are you finishing this shit out again?
I am, because you cannot get it together. It is 42 minutes again.
It's more than 42 minutes. It's like 9 hours and 42 minutes of this podcast.
Oh my god. We're done. I quit.
Sorry, Joe, you can't quit. I already fired you in the first part of this podcast. So until next time, guys, may we geek again.